Hello, dear friends, with you Naya. Today I'm going to introduce you to a rather interesting and very promising mod. It is still under development, and the developer is constantly updating it, but even now, the mod is quite grabbling. It is called Hexerei, which in German means witchcraft or witchcraft. At the moment, the mod is available for the newest and most popular versions of Minecraft 1.16.5 and 1.18.1. By the way, as always, I will leave a link to it in the description under the video. As the name implies, the mod adds various magical items and rituals to the game, and in addition, a new swamp biome with witch huts. In the future, the developer also promises to add familiars and even more different rituals. So, I think the modic will be somewhat similar to such popular mods as in the evening and beachment. Well, now stock up on goodies, and we begin to analyze the fashion Hexerei. To begin with, let's consider the new swamp biome added by the mod. It's called Willow Swamp. It's quite different from Vanilla Swamp, so you can easily distinguish it. The main characteristic feature of this biome is that there is a lot of clay. It's just everywhere. So if you want to build a house out of clay bricks, you definitely need to find such a swamp. And it is on such swamps that willow grows, the wood of which you will need for some crafts. And various new herbs ants, about which a little later. In the reservoirs of the new swamp biome, you can find such beautiful flowering lilies. They come in different types. Unfortunately, so far they are not used in any way in crafting, but they look awesome, and you can decorate your home pond with them. We are moving on to new structures. They will be generated both in the new Willow Swamp and in the usual Vanilla one. Now, running through the swamps, it will be possible to stumble upon such single houses of witches. They look very nice and fit perfectly into the surrounding landscape. The roof of the house is made of mossy brick and mahogany red wood, which is also added by the mod, but it can be found only in the jungle. Such a structure is quite easy to notice from afar because of the rather bright color of the roof, and agree, this house looks much cooler than the usual vanilla witch huts. The interior of the lonely witch's dwelling is also tastefully furnished. Here, in addition to all the vanilla goodness, you can find many things from fashion, such as a crystal ball, a mixing pot, a dark altar, and other interesting things, which we will consider in detail a little later. By the way, houses may differ slightly from each other in the layout of rooms and interior items. Besides, witches live in these dwellings, at least one, so be careful. And of course, where without a witch's cat, he will also wander around somewhere nearby, although not necessarily black. In addition to single buildings, entire settlements will now be generated in the world. These structures are also found in various swamp biomes, both in vanilla and in swamps added by other mods. This structure is generated in a similar way to a regular vanilla village, so witch settlements can be of different types and layouts. There are both very small, consisting of several houses, and very impressive sizes of 10 to 15 buildings. All of them rise above the ground and are built on wooden piles, and wooden bridges are laid between the buildings. The houses can be either one-story or two-story, as well as made of stone and mahogany wood. The roofs are made of willow boards and polished shernite. In addition to the witches' houses themselves, there is a bell here, just like in ordinary vanilla villages. And also, here is such a gazebo, in which there is a cauldron for witchcraft, and various herbs are dried. You can also find flower beds on which various witch plants and flowers grow. This is the place where witches hold those so-called Sabbaths. There are several witches living in such witchcraft settlements at once, so be extremely careful. But of course, there is much more loot in such villages than in individual witches' huts. In order to start your career as a witch, you should first study all the plants from the mod. So, the mod adds two types of trees. The first one is a swamp willow. It grows exclusively in swamps and is used for crafting boards and everything that can be crafted from them. That is, steps, fences, doors, hatches, and so on. But the main thing is that willow wood is used for crafting a witch's broom. This is done in a witch's cauldron, but we will consider working with the cauldron in more detail a little later. Mahogany tree. It can be found exclusively in the jungle biome, and it occurs not that very rarely, but not too often. Fortunately, because of its darker foliage, the mahogany tree stands out quite well against the background of the rest of the jungle vegetation, so you will definitely notice it, and will not confuse it with anything else. From the wood of this tree, you can also create various building blocks, fences, doors, and so on. But its main value is also that the handle of a witch's broom can be made from mahogany logs, and with special properties. You will learn more about this later. In addition to trees, there are 4 types of herbs in fashion, which are used for various crafts. These are mandrake, belladonna, wormwood, and horse sorrel. All these plants can be found just walking through the swamps. Breaking the plants, you will only get the plants themselves, which can be taken to your home and planted to obtain useful ingredients. After all, from the plants themselves, you can craft only a dried herbarium, which is a purely decorative decoration. To collect flowers and herbs, you cannot knock down plants, but simply right-click on them, and the crop will wither as fernberry bushes. That is, you will get loot, and the plant itself will not be damaged, and after some time, it will ripen again for harvesting. But running and collecting in the swamps is terribly impractical. It is best to plant your own vegetable garden, and in order to accelerate the growth of herbs, you can fertilize them with bone meal. All of these plants have 4 growth phases. The first is when you just planted it, and it has no flowers, but only green leaves. Each time we click on the plant with bone meal, we will germinate it into one phase. Upon reaching full maturity, we just need to harvest with the right mouse button, and the plant will again move to the first phase of growth. So with a mandrake plant, we will get mandrake flowers, and with some chance, a mandrake root. From the belladonna plant, belladonna flowers, and sometimes berries. From wormwood, wormwood leaves, and sometimes wormwood flowers, and from horse sorrel, leaves of horse sorrel, and sometimes its flowers. By the way, unlike other plants, horse sorrel can be grown even from seeds that sometimes fall out of broken grass. But keep in mind that the seeds can only be planted in the garden, and after the plant grows, it will need to be broken, and then the seeds and leaves of sorrel will fall out of it again. But the sorrel flowers will not be obtained in this way. Some recipes call for dried flowers and herbs. To get them, you need to use a hanging dryer. Her craft is not complicated like this. By hanging the dryer on the ceiling, you can dry different herbs on it. Just right-click on it, holding the desired item in your hand, and it will be on the dryer. By the way, you can dry not only herbs and flowers on it, but also dry a wet sponge, and also get skin from rotten flesh, which by the way is very profitable. Otherwise, these rotten things are constantly accumulating, and it is not clear where to put them. But leather can always come in handy. You can also remove dried items from the dryer with the right mouse button, but already in a squat. All the crafts for the dryer can also be viewed with the help of Joe. So, we studied the herbs, and even learned how to harvest them. It's time to start creating apparently visky stuff. To do this, first of all, we need a witch's cauldron. It is not difficult to craft it. Just cover an ordinary vanilla cauldron with iron ingots and 2 torches. That's it. Putting it on the ground, you will immediately see how cool it looks. By the way, all the things in fashion are made in great detail, from beautiful animation. Well, most of the complex crafting is done with this boiler, so you can say it is the main crafting workbench in fashion, if you can say so about the boiler. By the way, we didn't just add torches to the craft of the boiler, because now it is a light source. And this, in my opinion, is quite convenient. There will be no need to put a separate backlight. Depending on the crafting, water, lava, or other liquids from the mod can be poured into the boiler. 2 buckets of liquids are placed in the boiler, and all the crafts that are available in the boiler can be easily viewed with the help of the Gmod. I will also leave a link to it in the description of the video. By the way, in the cauldron itself, you can see recipes even without J. If you click on the bubbles here, as you can see, at the moment there are 23 crafts. I will introduce you to the main ones in the course of analyzing the rest of the things in fashion, but you can study them yourself. The main thing is to figure out how to read these crafts, and I'll explain it to you now. So, using the example of crafting a war hammer, we see that lava needs to be poured into the cauldron, at least 1.5 buckets. Then, put all the ingredients shown here into the cauldron, and after the mixing ritual takes place, you will receive a war hammer, and half a bucket of lava will remain in the cauldron. All other crafts work in a similar way. Now let's show you how this recipe works in practice. Pour 2 buckets of lava into the cauldron, and then throw all the necessary ingredients. The sequence is not important at all. The main thing is to have the right number of them. And if we did everything right, then the mixing process will begin. This will be clearly visible, since all the ingredients in the boiler will start spinning, and as a result, a ready-made item will appear. The animation of mixing looks very nice. For this, a separate thank you to the developer. But unfortunately, in order to pick up the finished item, you still have to go to the boiler interface. To do this, right-click on it and take the finished item. By the way, the ingredients for crafting can be laid out simply by cell in the boiler interface, but this is not so interesting. Now that we have a cauldron, we can start creating various witchy things. And the first thing worth crafting is a witch costume. It is made of impregnated fabric in this way. And in order to get such a fabric, you need to throw 2 black dyes, 4 skins, and 2 threads into a pot of water. Craft is quite inexpensive, especially considering that the skin can now be obtained from rotten. Wearing a suit, you will immediately notice that there is something missing in it, and yes, you were not mistaken. There are not enough pants in the suit, and so it is. Apparently, the mod's developer decided that real witches don't wear pants, so we'll do without them. In any case, I really like the witch costume. He looks great outwardly. The model is made for all 10 out of 10 and protects such a suit almost like a diamond armor. Of course, it deteriorates much faster, but after all, a suit can be enchanted, for example, for repair and durability, or make many sets at once, because craft is not particularly expensive. You can also craft a war hammer. However, I didn't quite understand why this hammer is so good, because its crafting is even a little more expensive than that of a jade ball, and the characteristics are absolutely the same, and even the strength is exactly the same. Well, perhaps in the future, the developer will give it some unique features or effects. By the way, the hammer can be enchanted with all the same cups as the sword, animal fat. Now, when killing animals, a piece of fat will fall out of them with some chance. It will not work to eat it, but if you throw 6 pieces of fat into a pot of water and add 2 honeycombs there, you will get melted fat. In addition, with some chance you will get pork rinds. Oddly enough, they can be used as food. And, although the pork rinds do not make up for so many hunger bones, but they can be eaten when the hunger scale is already completely filled. If you continue to eat them further, you will fill in an invisible saturation scale, so you will not get hungry soon now. But the melted fat left in the cauldron can be useful for crafting witch candles. To do this, we need an additional device, the name of which can be translated as a dipper. It is made as follows. We throw 5 iron ingots and 3 pieces of iron into the glory cauldron. We get a ready-made device that needs to be installed on a mixing boiler with liquid fat. To do this, sit down and hold the dipper in your hand, right-click on the upper side of the boiler. The dipper will be installed. Now you can start making candles. Take the threads and right-click them on the device. Be careful, you need to hover the cursor very accurately. As soon as you place at least 1 thread, the manufacturing process will begin. The animation is very beautiful and fascinating. You can watch for a long time how the threads are alternately dipped into the boiler, then rise and fall again. Each time the candles get thicker, and the fat in the boiler gradually decreases. When the candles stop sinking into the cauldron, it will mean that they are completely ready, and you can pick them up with the right mouse button. Candles can be painted by simply combining them with any dye in a craft cell. And you can also get a red candle by plunging it into a cauldron with blood. Candles can be installed on any block, and up to 4 candles can be placed on one block. In this way, you can combine candles of different colors. You can light candles with flint. By the way, the more candles are lit, the brighter it becomes around. Unfortunately, it will not be possible to extinguish the candles with your hand. To do this, they need to be destroyed. At the same time, they will drop out as an object, and you can also fill them with a bucket of water. Then they will also go out. By the way, candles do not burn indefinitely. They gradually become smaller and smaller, and after half an hour of real time, they will completely burn out and run out. In the future, the developer plans to add various effects to candles, but so far this has not been implemented, and they are only a beautiful decor that can be used as lamps. You can also craft a candelabra from candles by throwing 1 chain, 3 iron ingots, and 4 candles into a cauldron with water. The candelabra can be mounted on a block, while it will look like a candlestick with 4 candles, or you can hang it from the ceiling. At the same time, it is better to cling not to the block itself, but to the chain. Then it will look more aesthetically pleasing. Candelabra can also be lit with a lighter, but all 4 candles will light up at once, and by the way, they will give more light than a regular vanilla torch. A dried bunch of wormwood can be made from wormwood leaves. To do this, place a thread in the center and cover everything around with wormwood leaves. Then, this raw bundle needs to be dried on a dryer. While it is drying, you can have time to make a golden plate for burning incense. To do this, throw 8 gold bars into a weak cauldron. The resulting object can be put in the place you need, and then put an already dried bunch of wormwood on it. Then we set it on fire with a flint. At the same time, there will be no animation of fire, but only clouds of smoke. By the way, such clouds of smoke will spread at a fairly large distance from the lit bundle of wormwood, namely within a radius of 48 blocks. And while the wormwood is burning, evil mobs will not spawn throughout this territory. That is, those who have already fallen asleep will not disappear anywhere, but new ones will not appear. This is such a wonderful effect wormwood gives. By the way, 1 beam will burn for 60 minutes of real time, that is 1 hour, or 3 Minecraft days. A bowl of wormwood has 4 burning modes. Orange. In other words, these are the modes of displaying particles that can be switched by right-clicking on it. The first mode, you see wisps of smoke from wormwood, which gently cleanse the surroundings. The second mode, you see the same wisps of smoke. They clear the neighborhood and form a circle. The third mode, you see how wisps of smoke form a circle of rest. And the fourth, you don't see any smoke, but wormwood still cleanses the neighborhood of all evil spirits. By the way, you can put a funnel over the incense plate, and then, as the wormwood bunches burn out, they will fall into it automatically. However, I did not check whether they would be automatically set on fire or not. For the next crafting, you may need blood. It's not very difficult to get it, but first you need to craft a bloody sigil. This is such an alchemical sign or symbol. This is how it is done. Throw 4 blocks of polished chernite and the same amount of reddened dust into the cauldron of glory. At the same time, you will get this kind of thing. Then you need to install it in an empty cauldron in the leftmost slot, and then you will see that this witchy sign with spikes appeared at the bottom of the cauldron. Now we need to get into the cauldron and start jumping in it. At the same time, the spikes will damage us, and the cauldron will begin to fill with blood. To get 1 bottle of blood, you need to jump 3 times. In addition to the fact that blood is used in crafting, it can still be eaten, but again from bottles. True, it makes up for very few bones of hunger, but it imposes an absorption effect for 10 seconds. That's it. Now we have learned how to extract blood, and we can start making a witch's broom. In general, a witch's broom is a modular product. That is, you can hang and remove different parts on it, but the basis of the broom is its handle. At the moment, there are two types of handles made of willow wood and mahogany in fashion. Let's start with a willow broom as a simpler one. To craft it, you will need a cauldron filled with 1 bucket of water, 1 bottle of blood, 2 willow logs, 2 gold blocks, 2 wheat, and 1 mandrake root. I have already told you how to get it above. Throwing all these ingredients into the cauldron, we get a willow broom. To craft a mahogany broom, you will also need a cauldron filled with 1 bucket of water, into which you need to throw 1 Nazarite ingot, 2 mahogany logs, 2 jars of blood, 2 wheat, and 1 mandrake root. Taking a broom from the boiler, you can put it on the ground with the right mouse button, and sitting down and right-clicking on it again, you will open the broom interface. By the way, it is the same in both types of panicles. Here on the right, there is a gear. Clicking on it, an additional menu of 2 buttons will pop out. By pressing the top button with the image of an up arrow, you will order the broom to always be in the upper position, even if you are not sitting on it. It looks pretty cute when the broom is parked on the ground, and it's slowly swaying up and down like that. But this mode is very dangerous for flights, because if you accidentally jump off the broom, or fall off it in some other way, then the broom will continue to hang in the air, and it will be very problematic to get it. To prevent this from happening, there is a second mode. It turns on with the bottom button. At the same time, when you fall off the broom, flying high in the air, because the heifer will smoothly descend to the ground on its own, so you can safely sit on it again and continue on your way. Now about the differences between a willow broom and a mahogany broom. Willow broom flies slower and burns very quickly from fire and lava. But because of the slower speed of movement, it is more convenient to use it in the construction of some high-rise buildings in survival mode. In turn, the mahogany broom flies much faster and is not afraid of fire. So it is better and more convenient to use it as a transport. This is where the broom is located. It can be removed, and then the broom will turn into just a stick, on which it will no longer be possible to fly. This is done so that it is possible to change these brooms, because over time they wear out and break. And the more you fly, the more the brooms wear out. Now there are 2 types of brooms in fashion: ordinary and improved. To craft an ordinary broom, you need to throw 2 mandrake roots, 4 wheat, horse sorrel, and wormwood into a pot of water. At the same time, you will get a wet broom, which you need to hang on the dryer and wait until it dries, and turns into a regular broom, which can already be installed on a broom. The strength of an ordinary broom is 100 units, but it can be enchanted for repair and durability. An improved broom is also crafted in a cauldron filled with water, and you need to throw 1 ordinary broom, 1 flower and a belladonna berry, 2 mandrake roots, a mandrake flower, 1 wormwood, and 1 flower of horse sorrel. Then also dry on the dryer. The improved broom already has 200 units of strength, and it can also be enchanted for strength and repair. You can also attach various additional things to the broom, which are not mandatory spare parts, but may be useful to you. First of all, these are hanging bags. They come in 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. All of them are being crafted in a cauldron with water. For a small one, you need 6 skins, 1 thread, and 1 piece of gold. The average bag is crafted from a small bag, 1 thread, and 6 skins. A large bag is made from a small and medium bag, 4 threads, and 2 skins. By installing such handbags in the appropriate broom slot, inventory slots will appear in it. At the same time, a small handbag will give you 9 slots, an average one 18, and a large one as many as 27. That is, as 1 single chest. At the same time, if you put some things in the broom inventory and then break the broom, it will fall out into the world, keeping all the things in your inventory. In addition to handbags, you can hang jewelry in the form of gold rings on a broom. They come in 2 types, double and single, but with a keychain. Double rings are crafted in a cauldron with glory of 4 gold bars and 4 pieces of gold. A single keychain ring is also crafted in a cauldron of glory from 1 chain, 3 gold bars, and 4 pieces of gold. Gold rings are installed in the leftmost slot of the broom and displayed at the very tip of the broom handle. In this case, the double ring looks just like a double ring, but you can attach any objects to the keychain ring. To do this, simply combine the ring with any object or block in the craft cells and then insert the finished keychain into the broom slot. Now a smaller copy of this item will hang very nicely on a chain and gently sway when flying. It looks just awesome. To fly on a broom, sit on it like a horse by right-clicking on it. At the same time, you will sit sideways, so to speak, with a lady's landing. You can rotate your head in the same way as sitting in a boat, using the mouse cursor for this, but keep in mind that you are sitting sideways, so you will not be able to turn around completely and look to the right, only forward, left and back, such things. It's not easy being a witch. And what did you want? This is not a motorcycle. To climb, use the space bar, that is jump, and to descend, the left shift key is assigned by default, and it conflicts with the key responsible for sitting. So it must be reassigned to any other convenient one for you. Here in the management settings. Otherwise, you risk falling off the broom when you want to lower the height. For turns, as well as for forward and backward movement, the same keys are used as for normal walking, W, hey C, D, but keep in mind that the broom flies much slower backwards than forwards. When flying, the broom leaves behind particles of leaves coming off the broom. It looks awesome, and in general, flying on a broom is quite pleasant and interesting. For convenient storage of various herbs and flowers, there are special jars in fashion. They can be easily crafted by throwing 8 blocks of sand into the glory cauldron. The jars can be placed on the floor, and if you right-click on them, holding any plant in your hand, then immediately the whole plant will be inside. At the same time, a picture of the plant that is placed inside will appear on the jar itself. It looks extremely aesthetically pleasing. If you click on the jar with the left mouse button, then you will get one plant from there. In order to open the inventory of the jar, sit down and right-click on it. The jar has only one inventory slot, so it can store only one type of plant, but at the same time, it fits 1024 pieces, that is 16 stacks. And the best part is that the jar keeps its inventory when you break it. That is, it is quite convenient to sort, transfer, and store different types of plants in such jars. And you can also sign jars. Well, suddenly someone will need it. To do this, just put it in the anvil and rename it. At the same time, when you put it on, the label of the jar will display the name that you have given it. There is also such a small and very beautiful casket in fashion. It is made in a cauldron with water from 5 mahogany boards and 3 gold bars. Unlike jars, it can store any objects and blocks at all. He has 36 inventory slots, which is more than a regular single chest, which also occupies 1 block, but has only 27 slots. In addition, Laris from the mod is able to open himself when you approach him. At the same time, you can see what is in it. In my opinion, this is quite convenient. Also, the casket is able to store the contents during transportation. In addition, the caskets can be painted with any dyes, while they also do not lose things from the inventory. As I warned you, the mod is under development, so in addition to well-working items, there are also those that do not have their own functionality, but which, according to the author of the mod, will be added in the future. Such, for example, includes a mortar with a pestle. She has her own craft like this. And this mortar can even be used to grind some plants into some kind of mixture. But this mixture itself is not used anywhere yet. So I attributed this item to purely decorative. There is also a crystal bowl in fashion. His craft is like this, but there is also no functionality. And there is also a block of selenite and the pieces obtained from it, which are also not yet used in fashion. And the dark altar. It is made of mahogany boards, but unfortunately, again, it does not have functionality yet. So we will follow the updates of the mod, and I hope the developer will not abandon it, because it is made very qualitatively and with interesting mechanics. Everything that is already functioning works fine. I haven't noticed any special bugs yet. Well, this is where I finish my review. I am waiting for your comments about this mod, whether you liked it or not. Don't forget to put your finger up for my efforts. And see you again, dear friends. Bye-bye.